Hello, everybody. Thanks for
Hello.
joining us. I have a guest today. I have Kristen with me. Kristen, you want to say who you are?
Hi. Sorry. Now I see what you're saying. I'm gonna mute my Twitch there. I'm Kristen. I am a coworker of Franzi's. I am a Java developer and a DPE, which is a developer programs engineer, and I work on cloud client libraries.
Yeah, and we usually sit right next to each other in the office in New York, but right now we sit on like different parts of town because it's easier with the streaming and the
All for the
microphone.
live stream.
We're not sitting next to each other. So Kristen is on the stream today because when I was doing the advent of code puzzles, there was one puzzle, day 10, where optical character recognition would have been perfect for finding the solution if you want to like take it one step further and automate everything. And Kristen is an expert in the Vision API, so I'm like, hey Kristen, can we do this in Java, please? So our plan for today is we will work on day 10 in Java, which is actually pretty easy to read if you know JavaScript. And then Kristen will show us at the end how we can use the Google Cloud Vision API to automate the whole process of reading the solution at the end.
Yep, and then Franzi will also show us her JavaScript solution as well. Is that right?
Yes. So if we have time,
Yay.
we'll see. So Kristen will help me figure out how to call the Vision API in JavaScript or in node.js, because we have these really simple to use client libraries for all the big APIs. So hopefully it should be really straightforward to do that. Hi Green Chapter, thanks for watching. All right, everybody ready for some Java code? Oh, and this is the first time we're doing the two people over Hangouts and different microphone. So let us know if you have issues with the audio or something else, and maybe we can adjust it during the stream. But if not, at least we know if something's not working and we can try to fix it the next time.
Definitely. Cool. Should we get started?
Let's get
Awesome.
started.
All right. So I'm sharing just my screen right now. So this is the advent of code, as Franzi mentioned, and this is the day 10 question. So we'll just start by going through the challenge and what we have to do to solve it. So start from the beginning. It's no use. Your navigation system simply, but before we go into this also, these are all like holiday themed because it was December. So we're a little late, but still festive. So it's no use. Your navigation system simply isn't capable of providing walking directions in the Arctic Circle, and certainly not in 1018. The elves suggest an alternative. In times like these, North Pole rescue operations will arrange points of light in the sky to guide missing elves back to base. Unfortunately, the message is easy to miss. The points move slowly enough that it takes hours to align them, but have so much momentum that they only stay aligned for a second. If you blink at the wrong time, it might be hours before another message appears. You can see these positions of light floating in the distance and record their position in the sky and their velocity, the relative change in position per second, which is your puzzle input. The coordinates are all given from your perspective. Given enough time, these positions and velocities will move the points into a cohesive message. Rather than wait, you decide to fast forward the process and calculate what the points will eventually spell. For example, suppose you note the following point. So this is some sample input. So when you solve this puzzle yourself, you get positions and velocities like this, just with obviously much more of them in different numbers. So each line represents 1 point. Positions are given as XY pairs. X represents how far left, negative, or right positive the point appears, while Y represents how far up or down the point appears. At 0 seconds, each point has the position given, so whatever this is. Each second, each point's velocity is added to its position. So a point with velocity 1, -2 is moving to the right, but is moving upward twice as quickly. If this point's initial position were 3,9, after 3 seconds, its position would become 6,3. So after 3 seconds, so basically we add 1 to 3 3 times, so we get 6, and we add -2 to 9 3 times, and we get 3. So this is kind of a visual representation of what the output looks like. So we start here. And then after 1 second, it moves a bit. After 2 seconds, and after 3 seconds, we get our secret hidden message, which is, in this case, hi. And after 4 seconds, it disappears again. So the goal of this exercise is to figure out, given the coordinates that we were provided, what our hidden message is.
Okay, so hold on just 1 second. People in the chat were saying that I'm not loud enough. So let's see if this makes it a little better. And then hi Finna, hi Ben. Ben is also with us in New York. Hi Chris. Thanks everybody for joining. Does this sound a little better? Okay. They said you were perfect. I was just like really far away, like in a big cave, and they can't hear me.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi GQ. Okay. So Crystal says it could be better.
Hi, Brad and Julie. Busy, bro. Okay, so before we get going and dive into the code, does anyone want to ask any questions, any clarifications, or does that kind of so far so good make sense? Cool. Well, in that case,
No
I am
questions.
no questions. Excellent. I am going to shift my screen sharing to my IntelliJ, so just bear with me for 1 second.
Okay. You know, I tested this before and it said it sounds good, like it sounded good to me. I don't know why this changed all of a sudden. And I turned on Kristen and I turned myself up. Is it not any better? Chris, you are our loopback expert. Anything you would change here? Sorry, Kristen, a technical
No worries.
difficulty.
It wouldn't be live without.
Oh, hi, Dane. Thanks for joining. Hi. I don't know how to say your name. Dana? YWG Dana? Did you do the whole?
I'm just louder.
Okay, Kristen. Okay, I can turn down Kristen some more. Sorry, Kristen.
All right.
I think, can you still hear Kristen now?
Hello, hello.
Okay, Dane says he can hear just. All right, hi Dana, did you solve all the problems? They were so much fun. Hey, randomors, yes, this is Hangouts. When Sipro and I did it, we actually used the live sharing of Visual Studio Code, which was pretty cool. But for Java, Kristen wants to use IntelliJ, which I totally understand, having worked with Java before. And they don't have the live streaming feature yet. It's requested. Okay, all right, on to Kristen.
Cool, awesome. And then, yeah, just feel free to flag us if you need. So just to show everyone, these were the coordinates that I was given when I started, the process. So I have saved them in just my resources folder under coordinates.txt. So basically we have to read in this input, process it, and then do stuff with it. So I've kind of started just, making stub classes. So we have our main method, and let's get going. So I think the first thing that we want to do here is we want to actually parse the input and figure out our coordinates and our velocities. So basically, an easy way we can do this is we can just start by splitting up each thing line by line. So I'm going to just start by saying we want to end up with a list of strings, which is each line of input. I'll just say parse input. And to do that, the files library, we can do read all lines. And then I think this takes a path as a parameter. So I believe we do paths.get, and we pass in the file path. So in this case, it's source Java, source main, sources, coordinates, txt. Cool. And now I have some error. I just have some unhandled exceptions. So I'm just gonna let the IDE take care of those for me. Cool. So we have our parsed input. And now what we want to do is we want to split them up, by their lines and split out the positions and coordinate. So also, I don't know, just going to talk about some random IntelliJ stuff for
yes,
postfix completion. If you do .for after like a list or something, it will auto-generate a for loop for you, which is pretty cool. And then you can just put in your variable name. And we want to save all these new inputs into a list. So a couple of things here, just thinking structurally about how we want to change them, or save them rather. We have our positions and we have our velocities. So I'm going to make kind of like a holder small class that will hold these for me so that I can access them later. So what I mean is I want the final result to look something like a coordinate and velocity. That's going to be the type. And we'll just save it to a plain array list for now. Cool. And so this obviously doesn't exist yet. So I can create an inner class here called coordinate and velocity. Nice. And within that, I want to store the coordinate and the velocity. So basically, both of these things are just x and y coordinates. So we can create a class that stores these things for us. So we're going to have, we can say those are like points if you want. Point, and I think, so I'm not going to use that, I'm just going to make one myself. Point coordinate private velocity. So we can do another here, and these are just going to have the x and y coordinates. So. Okay, and from here, some cool IntelliJ stuff. If you press Control Enter, it can generate things like getters and setters for you, so I don't have to do them myself. So nice and easy. This will come in handy later. And then same thing here. I can create getters and setters for my coordinates and my velocities. Cool. So now I have like all my classes, and this makes a little bit more sense in terms of how we can kind of store these things. So
I wonder if TypeScript would look a lot like this, because in JavaScript you don't need all the spoilerplate, but also later you don't remember anymore which variable is what. So.
Yeah, pros and cons, right? For sure. So now we're going to parse our line. So I'm just going to make like a helper method, and it's going to return back a coordinate equals, and I'll just say we'll get this by parsing the line of input. Cool. And by the way, this is like generally how I do a lot of my coding. I just like make up things and then let the IDE create the methods and classes for me later, just so I don't have to do it myself. So create method.
Is that like a right click or control
Oh yeah,
enter?
sorry, I should have mentioned that. So these are all keyboard IntelliJ shortcuts. For the Mac, it's Option Enter. We'll do things like bring up this little menu and suggestions. Like for this one, for example, I think it just needs to do this. But anyway,
Diamond.
Yeah, diamonds. Yeah, Alt Enter. The command Enter is how I was doing things like to generate. Things like that. IntelliJ is super useful when it comes to their shortcuts for that, so it's really nice. Cool. So now we want to parse each line. So at the end of this, we want to end up with a point with the x and y coordinates and velocities. So the first thing we want to do is read the input. So just as a reminder, we kind of want to parse this as the x position. Oh, I should probably rename that to position instead of coordinate. And then the y position, the x velocity, and the y velocity. So these are the values we're trying to get out of here.
And do you start something like that always with the full input? I always have to use the test input because I miserably fail on the first iteration.
It depends. So I like to, after this step, I like to run it and just make sure I didn't get any like, out of bounds exceptions or like that I parsed incorrectly or something, because I've certainly done that before.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Really quick, while I'm just thinking of this, I'm going to rename this to position. So this was Shift F6 is a keyboard shortcut, and you can just rename all your variables and it takes care of it for you, which is kind of nice. So just to make it a little bit clearer, and we'll rename this method to position and velocity. And yes, we will rename the variable as well, IntelliJ magic. So now we want to parse the input. So we're going to do a substring. So we want to start at the first open bracket. So we'll do input index of that. And I believe we want to do +1 to move it over 1, because otherwise we'll actually grab this as the first character. So that is the first beginning index. And now for the end index, we want input index of, I believe, the comma. And that is not inclusive, so we should be fine. And then something to note about the coordinates is that there is white space that can be grabbed in them. So like this, for example, so to prevent any issues from coming, we can just trim the strings. So we have a clean string, because now we want to convert these into integers. And then doing .var at the end extracts a variable here. So this is the X position. And then similarly, we want to do the Y position. So I'm just going to copy this line, change it to Y. And now for the Y, we want to start at the comma +1 and then go till the close. So that should take care of that. And we want to set, I'll rename this actually to position. We want to set the position to X position, Y position. And
if you were in a Google interview with Java, would you recommend doing setters and getters, or would you just wing it and make everything public?
Either or. Yeah, this is just because I have the convenience of an IDE and everything will do it for me. You can also do, if I want to make an extra constructor where I could do something like that, that's totally cool too. Either or. Yeah, I rely heavily on the IDE to do a lot of the heavy lifting for me. Cool. So now for the velocity. We want to do more or less the same thing, just different coordinates. So I'm going to just paste this. I'm going to call this X velocity and Y velocity. And instead of the index of, strings have the handy last index of, which I think is all we need to, and these two to make this all work. Okay. And then we do velocity set X. Oh, no. Y velocity. Cool. And then after that, we want to just put these in this helper class that I made, which is more or less like a pair. Position, position. Set velocity. And then we want to return that. Cool. So hopefully this should have worked. We can verify that in just a second. So I'm just going to add this to the list. And just for sanity, I'm going to print out the first one just to make sure that I don't get any errors thrown or anything like that. And then it all worked.
Cool. Gwyneth is asking if there's a reason why you don't use a regex to capture the values.
Yeah, that's totally valid too. I always like to do stuff like this with like strings and substrings in my head. That makes more sense, but you could totally just look for the tokens of the opening and closing angle brackets and commas for sure. Either or.
Isn't there this joke that I had a problem, I tried to fix it with a regex, now I have two problems?
Exactly. Yeah, I am less good at regexes than I am at string substrings. But if you are a regex person, go for it.
Yeah, feel free to post a regex in the chat, Gwyneth, if you want to share it.
Yeah, we can totally refactor this at the end and with all your suggestions. I'm totally happy to do that. Okay, so it looks like it didn't break, but I did notice the the printed out message was like not so great, and that's because we don't have a toString overridden.
Wait, I don't think I saw the printed message.
Oh, sorry. I'll rerun it.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so this is just like the object reference, which is like not so informative for us. Like we know it's there, which is great, but I'm really curious to make sure I got the coordinates right. So I'm going to do my toString. This is, again, the IntelliJ auto-generated one, which for this is totally fine. I'm not looking for anything too fancy. I just want something in English that I can understand. Cool. So now if we rerun.
Oh,
okay.
Hey, Anthony, don't bring us to Perl now again. Okay.
Cool. So we're getting x is negative 2515, y 20, and then we can just go back and just verify. Yep, that's the first line. So looks like we are so far so good. But that's a good sanity check that I always like to do. Cool. All righty. So I'm just going to take a quick pause and just make sure there aren't any other questions before I keep going, because that's kind of one of the big steps here.
Okay, the chat is making fun of us, and they're saying, well, if this were an interview, you should be writing Alexa and a parser during your 45 minutes. I would strongly recommend against that. But
maybe next time. We can do a round 2 of this. Awesome.
Yeah, and just for those joining late, this is not the interview question kind, and it's not an interview question. This is from Advent of Code, day 10. I know Christmas was a while ago, but that problem had a really cool solution if you want to play around with optical character recognition and the Vision API and ML. So that's why we're going back to day 10 to add on the OCR at the end. Hi, Thea. Hi, McKeefy. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Chupa Puma. Okay. Oh, hi, Robin. Long time no see. How's it going?
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to keep going on then. So now that we have everything parsed, what do we do with all this stuff? So if we look, or if we think back to the example, we could, brute force this, iterate through every single point in velocity and just kind of like print out when we have coordinates, but that gets really, really slow. I actually was thinking about doing that first, but it would never have finished. So we want to kind of like think of a way, how do we know when the letters will appear so we're not continually just like for each redrawing, checking to see and like reprinting and everything. So the easiest way we can do this, or at least I think so, feel free to correct me if you think there's an easier way, is check the area or the size of the image that we draw, and if it is at its smallest point, so meaning we'll draw one more time more just to compare. If it's at its smallest point because all the points came together, they probably created the word because then they're going to start separating again. So that's the approach that I'm going to take for this. So to do that, we need to do a couple things. So we need to save these coordinates, and we're going to keep overriding them every time that we redraw the map with adding the velocities each time. So I'm going to create another holder just above this. Excuse me. And I'm going to just call it inputs. You can help me think of a better name if you'd like. And so we're going to use this as a holder later on. So to determine the size, we can just create some size variables. We'll just say it's at max. And then the new size will be after we've drawn it. We'll just start it as size -1. So now we want to keep iterating while size is greater than new size. And new size and size will keep getting overwritten as we continue to redraw the map. So the first things we want to do is just kind of create those 4 coordinates, max x, max y, min y, to create those bounds. So just to do that, I'm going to start them at like the lowest possible thing so we can always overwrite them. So to show you what I mean, max x equals long dot min value, so that we know we're obviously going to rewrite this at some point with the smallest x value. And by the way, I'm using long so I don't get any like overflow with integers. And x max value, long, min, y. Always confusing in my head to flip-flop back and forth. Max x equals long, min. Did I do that right? Just gonna move this up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would totally change the order.
Yeah. Okay, max x min, min x max, max x min, min y max. Good. Okay. So these are obviously all going to get overwritten once we start processing our input. So we want to start with our holder. Oh, we want to start with our, I'm just going to call this actually new input because that's in my head. Well, that makes more sense. We're going to basically like swap these out so that we can kind of iterate over them and then write to them. Oh, sorry, this is not new array list. So this is going to now get the new inputs once we start adding the velocities to them. Okay, and then the size we're also going to switch out after.
Why is the, oh, no, it's right. Okay, I was going to say, why is the editor complaining about the size, bigger new size, but now it's okay.
Oh, yeah, sometimes it just takes a minute.
That's
So now we're going to iterate through our inputs, and we're going to say new point, new point. Cool. And now we're going to do, oh, wait, sorry. Yes, input. Oh, I'm going to rename this to point of velocity because I like descriptive things. Okay, position, velocity, get position. And we'll just save that as the position, and we'll save this to the velocity. Cool. We're going to now make the new point, and we're going to set the x to the position x coordinate plus the velocity x coordinate. So basically we're saying take the positions x and add the velocities x to it. And then similarly, we'll do the same, for the velocity. Cool. So this is kind of how we're updating them. And then we want to add that to the new input with the new, oh, let me just, position velocity. And to whoever raised the point earlier, a constructor would be nicer, so I could just do this inline, but next time. Instead of getters and setters. New point. I should say new position. That's confusing. Sorry. Position. And the velocity stays the same, obviously, because we want to keep adding. Oh, we want to keep adding the velocity after. Okay, and we want to add new position and velocity. Cool. So this should take care of adding all the new inputs to that. And while we're here, we want to update our max x's and y's because obviously these are not correct at the moment. So for each new input, we want to update what the new min and maxes are for our area. So if new position get x is greater than max x, max x is equal to new position get x. If new position get x is less than min x, then x equals new position get x. If new position get y is greater than x, y. And feel free to correct me if you see I'm doing like the wrong combination of min and max or things like that. These can get confusing.
Oh, so much. And then you read it 4 times and you're like, oh, this is right. No.
Exactly.
So the chat is having a little like regex competition here.
Oh boy.
If you want to look at the chat, it is not pretty, and Python as a regex.
Oh my goodness, I see a lot of symbols.
And Dane said he was doing it in C# and it was middling ugly. That's how much fun I'm at parties.
Nice, I love it.
Oh, and Chris is saying the input is too regular for regular expressions.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah, name capture groups are great.
Name
And
capture.
yeah, and JavaScript I think brought them over mostly from C#.
Oh, cool. I've never, yeah, maybe I'm stuck in my old ways. I should explore these new things. Let me just reformat this too. Cool. Okay, so now once we're done here and we break out of this for loop, we have all of our maxes and mins set. So now we want to create the area. So that is going to be our x's times our y's, the area based on height. Max x minus the min x times max y minus the min y. Cool. All right. So now we've kind of, at this point, we'll be able to determine when we can print the board. So once we break out of this loop, it's time to print it. So now I'm just going to create a method called print board. And it's going to take our inputs, not the new inputs because we've overwritten them. And we've moved them one forward at this point. We're so close. Yay. Okay, I'll take a second and pause for the chat if anyone needs anything.
So Robin was saying if you would like to apply for a job at a big company like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, what does WE mean? As a JavaScript Node.js developer, what are some must-have knowledge things that you should have? Well, as Chris pointed out, we pretty much have the whole team here, so if anybody wants to throw in some things that are must-have knowledge. Oh, whatever, okay, WE2. I think algorithms and data structures are like the thing you need to know. And usually we try, like the interview is not supposed to be a quiz on whether you can memorize syntax perfectly. It's totally fine.
Listen.
Oh, Thea, thank you. Yeah, critical piece of knowledge. When not to use regex, so obviously that's a little bit sarcastic here. Yeah. Yeah, but I let the chat take over. There's a lot of Googlers in there who can all say a little bit about what they think is important for the interviews. But I don't think there's any must-have. If you're a little weaker, if you don't know one thing, if you're good in the other questions, like we expect you to learn at the job, and we want somebody who can learn. We don't need somebody who already has all the perfect knowledge.
For sure. Cool. All right, I'm going to keep on going. We are so close to the end. We just got to print the board, and then hopefully we will see a secret message. If not, I have a screenshot of it. Okay. So now what we want to do is basically the easiest way to traverse through these points is, as I mentioned, like going like through the X's and then through the Y's is very costly. And in all likelihood with these sizes of positions, we're not going to be able to finish. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at the Y's and see X's that associate with it. So I'll explain what I mean. So we want to iterate through, so basically we're going to actually, before I even start, I'm going to just create a basic map. So integer to a set of integers. And this is going to be, oops. We could say y to x's, reverse points, y to x coordinates. And I'm just going to make it a hash map for simplicity. Okay. So now we want to go through all of our inputs and cool. So let's look at our position. We have our position here. And basically what we want to do is we want to see, is the y coordinate in the map already? So we want, and if it's not, if it is in the map, we want to add the x to that y coordinate. If it's not, then we want to create a new set to store that. So we can do get or default is a Java 8 method, which is super, actually, is it Java 8? I don't know. I think I started using it in Java 8, but I could be lying. It's maybe Java 7. Feel free to let me know. We're going to say for the y coordinate, and then either if it's not there, the default value will be a hash set. Oh. Cool. So now we want to add the new value. Get x. And then we want to put it in the map. So get y and to add. Okay, cool. So that gives us our y to x coordinates. And then we want to go in order and sort the y's. So we can just create a new array list of the key set, oops, of the y coordinates. And these are our y's. And we want to sort them by natural order, just by numerical order. Cool. So now we want to iterate with our min and max again. So I'll explain this in a minute. Teacher min value, min and teacher max value. And now we want to iterate through our y's. Let's get all the x's. Let's see. Okay. And now we want to get the minimum values so we know our bounds. So x coordinates string min, compare by natural order. That will give us our minimum value, which is an optional. That I know for sure is a Java 8 feature, which basically if this list was empty, it would prevent me from getting back a null thing and then throwing a null pointer exception later on. So instead I do if min is present, ensuring that it's there, because otherwise I won't do anything with it. If min1 get is less than the min, we want to overwrite the min. And then similarly, we want to do the same exact thing for the max. Okay, so stream max to order. Same thing. There's probably an easier way I can write this because I feel like I'm writing the same code, but feel free to give me some suggestions.
I feel these problems, it's better to be explicit than trying to be smart.
This is
And
true.
then it's just
No,
wrong.
I'm not fancy this time around. Cool. All right. We are ready to print. Now we want to iterate through, on this loop. We want to iterate through our y's yet again, and now with our min and max things. So we want to do x, y to x coordinates, get y. There's our set of x's. For int I equals min, I is less than or equal to max. This is giving us our bounds, I plus plus. If the x's contain the value, meaning we have this coordinate, we are going to print out a, hashtag. Otherwise, we'll print out Oh, actually, no, sorry, not print line, print. Print line will add a new line at the end of every print. And for this, we want them all obviously lined up in a row. And then outside of this, we want it to do a new line. Okay. All right.
Oh, we're so close.
We're so close. Okay, cool. Yeah, so after this, we break out, we add our new thing. Okay. I am going to give this a go. Let's see how we do.
All right, fingers crossed.
Yay! So as you can see, my secret message is AHZLLCAL.
Wow,
Yay!
I can't believe that like worked so perfectly. But
It was,
IntelliJ is really helpful with everything.
yes, it is. It makes my life a lot easier. Yay. Awesome. So cool. So this gives us our hidden message. This is really cool. And now the cloud vision stuff. So obviously we can read this and say, oh, here's our hidden message. But now the question is, can the cloud vision API read it as well?
Do we need to put this into the Advent of Code website to see whether that's right? But I guess this is right. Like we wouldn't get perfect letters. Like
I promise it's right. I already did it. So now what we can do is we can kind of take a screenshot of this and hook it up to the Cloud Vision and see what it returns back. So we'll start with this screenshot. So I actually have that ready. So I think, I forgot what I called it. Hang on. I kind of cheated in that I oh, not these. Sorry, I gave away my secrets here, but you'll see why I have two in a minute. But I pre-screenshotted it because it was easier than trying to convert my text to an image. API is a little much, so didn't have time for that. But so I have my screenshot ready to roll, and now I'm going to use Cloud Vision in order to get it going. So to do that,
do you want to say a little bit what Cloud Vision is? And
yeah, sure. So Cloud Vision is super cool. There's a lot of cool things you can do with it. I've used it in the past to pass through images, and it can tell you labels. Like if you gave it an image of puppies, it'll say, oh, I think this is an image of puppies. So like things like that. It also does things like text detection. So for what we're doing here is we're going to pass in this image, and it's going to try and tell us what it thinks it is. So you can also do drag and drop. Like I can just take this image and do that as well. I'll show that after. I think I'll get the coding stuff. I'll prep that stuff, Franzi, while you show your solution. So for now, we'll just do the coding bits. So let's get going. So for Cloud Vision, oh, let me switch back to presenter mode. Awesome. So again, actually, I should mention, so before we start with the Cloud Vision stuff, you need to have an account to do these things with and a project set up. So what's really cool about Java and IntelliJ, or really just IntelliJ, is that there is a Google Cloud plugin, and you can use, you can just download it straight from IntelliJ, and it can pre-set up your projects for you. So just to show you what I mean, I have this cool Google Cloud Tools. I can click on Add libraries. And so what I've done is, I can just do it again, but I would check on Cloud Vision. And then what this does is continue. It creates a new service key, and it can set up environment variables for me so that I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make my, run my code like this so that it knows my project and my credentials and things like that. So it knows I'm entitled to use the service, which is cool. So over here, we have our Cloud Vision class. I'm starting fresh. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to read in that file. So we have this, oh, one more thing I forgot to show. The plugin also adds these dependencies like to your Maven POM for you. So here's the dependencies I'm using to pull in the Cloud Vision APIs and things like that, using version 79 and then specifically the Cloud Vision stuff, so it's easy to use. Cool. So first thing we want to do is we want to read our image as a byte string. Read from, and that takes a file input stream. And then I believe in here I can just do the path. So source, sources. I'm gonna not lie, I forgot what I called it already. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Sorry.
No
Actually, I'm going to,
problem.
okay. Okay. First screenshot. Actually, no, I'm going to go to letters. I'll explain. Well, I'll do the other one with the drag and drop. So this is just more exceptions. Letters. Oh my God, I can't spell. Okay, cool. So this is going to give us some bytes. And then from there, we want to set the bytes to an image. So we have this image new builder, which is Cloud Vision API stuff. Set content to the bytes, and we want to build it. Yay, we have an image. Now we want to say what kind of feature are we using? In this case, we're using text detection. So feature, new builder, and we want to set the type. There are a lot of, obviously, types. Text detection, and you can see, yeah, there's like all these different ones that you can use. We're using text detection. And we're going to build that.
So the image class that you're taking from Cloud Vision, that is just some representation of your PNG file?
Yep, exactly. It
Okay.
takes the bytes and it creates some class that Google Cloud understands as an image.
Oh, and then the features is all the things you can do. What are the different types that are interesting other than text detection?
So it depends. So for this, text detection is probably the only interesting one. But if you're doing things like regular images, label detection is super cool. That does things like, say, like if you pass an image of a dog, it'll say golden retriever, puppies, like things like that. Those are cool. Those are ones that I've worked with. It's fun. You can play around with a bunch of these and swap them around. In our case, text detection probably is the only one that makes sense, but still cool to do. Cool. So we have that stuff. And then we want to create an annotated image request. We want to add our feature, and we want to set our image. So basically, we're just creating all these little mini builders, setting it up into one giant request. And now we are ready to run our requests. So for the image annotator client, creating it, and we want to batch annotate the images. So batch. Oh, so this takes a list. So I need to make a list. So we can pass in multiple, we can pass in multiple requests here. I'm obviously only doing one, but this can handle a list. So do as many as you'd like. There we go. Okay.
So DigiKit is saying, oh, looks like some Java code. I'm kind of thinking the same. Those are like really long function names. Like, is it super hard to figure out what these function names are, or do you just find them once on the website and copy and paste them? Like,
Yeah,
where
so
did you get all this from?
this example is actually straight from, or the one that I'm like reciting. All this is information that's found on the Java tutorial. So I'm happy to show that after. You'll see like it's very similar, if not the same. I'm not the, yeah, that's a great point, that there's a lot of different classes and things you have to know to build. But all this stuff is documented online, so we can pull that up at the end for sure. Cool.
So I admit in JavaScript, when I use our client libraries, it's usually a lot of copying and pasting because nobody can
For sure.
nobody can remember image annotator client and things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That is like straight where this is from. Okay, so this batch annotate images and then getting the responses back. This is actually sending our requests out, and then we see what we get back. So now we're just going to iterate through and see what we get. So for each response, we want the text annotations. So this is like kind of a holder for all of them, but we're obviously only interested in the text ones. We wouldn't get any responses back for any other type of annotations. And then, oops, oh, I don't know how that happened. We can say the text is is the description. That's the way we get back to text. So let's run it and see how it goes.
Okay.
May take a sec.
So, and the chat has a few questions for you. So,
Yay.
oh, are those the right letters?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, because Theo was asking, since the message itself is made of characters, I wonder if it'll read the individual characters instead of the composite letters.
Yes.
And she's
Actually,
also...
no, sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say I tried this on the high input, and it did read it at first with just an H and just an I, and then I think I made the letters a little bit thicker, and it was able to pick it up as high. So it is interesting to see how it reads it. I think it just depends on like what your thing is.
Yeah, can you show the input again?
So this is the image that I passed through. So just to be totally clear, this first screenshot we had tried, and I'm going to show it in the drag and drop later. It's not able to pick up like this. So to make it clearer, we replaced the symbols, the periods with spaces, and the pound symbols with Unicode blocks. So that we can get like thick letters, and these were able to get picked up. So I can show these later in the drag and drop. But yeah, that's pretty much the solution. And I'll pull up all the other pages too while Franzi is going to show us her JavaScript solution.
Yeah. So Theo was also suggesting that maybe if you downscale it or blur the image, maybe then you can solve it, because that's kind of like unfocusing your eyes. Like I have to squint my eyes if I want to read that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
But since in this case, since we had control over what we're printing, it makes a ton of sense to just not print the dots and leave them as spaces, and then use a different code instead of the sharp symbols.
Exactly. Cool.
Okay, now they're making fun of builders and factories. I mean, if you use a regular, this is a really big font so that it like shows well on the stream. But I don't think that's too bad. This is a few lines of verbose Java code that get you text from an image.
Yeah. Builders, yay. Yeah, I guess coming from, I do a lot of Java development, so this seems like, I'm used to doing builders and stuff, but I'm sure in other languages, like Franzi will put my example to shame, I'm sure.
I don't know. Are there any more Java questions to this? So I guess while you were busy working, Kristen, the chat was like, well, could we use this not just to like read us the letters that we already see anyways, but could we use this to generate all the images and like for every single second or year or whatever that is in the ELF quiz that they're moving, and send all those rather than just the final one? And then somebody pointed out, since you took the screenshot manually, that wouldn't work. But I think in JavaScript, we can totally use some library that takes a text and turns that into a string, into an image.
Yeah, and I know you have a cool solution for that. I'm sure like there's a way to do. I just didn't do the screenshotting bit because I just took it myself. But if I was able to grab that, which is definitely possible, I just didn't do it for this example. But yeah, it's definitely a fun exercise we could look into next time, maybe.
Yeah. And do you want to show the drag and drop?
Yeah, why you switch first, because I need to like close all this out and open up the tab, but then I will get it ready. How's that?
Okay, yeah. All right, so I need to share my screen here. 1 second. Hangouts is always complicated. Button, wrong button. All right, share screen, and I guess I want to share Visual Studio. Here it is, day 10. All right, let me know if you can see that, Kristen.
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so nobody can see you anymore, Kristen.
Oh no.
Sorry, and they can't see me either.
No worries.
But I think the stream can see my code now. So this was day 10 in JavaScript, what I solved on stream. And I use shorter variable names than Kristen, but it's equally verbose, I think. So if we do Node 10, that looks good. So day 10. We also get a message, but we get a different message. And the first thing I want to try is automatically generate an image here. And I need a browser for this. Wrong size browser, 1 second. I'm like still setting up all my Twitch stuff and I don't want to buy a ton of equipment and then realize I never use it. So I'm working on one small laptop. So everything's a little harder. Okay, but we want node.js text to image. All right. So this one, yeah, this is exactly what we want. We want a text to image from create PNG image from multi-line text. Kristen, can I put any kind of image to the Vision API? I can, right?
I believe so.
JPEG,
PNG
PDF.
for sure is good because that's what I did.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Oh, I think I want to do that in the terminal next. All right. So while this is installing, so this is what we need to do. Well, I think we probably already have FS required because I was reading the test input. And then we just want to say text to PNG, and then the multi-line string, and then a color with it. Okay, can do that. Fallback to build, but that all looks like it did it. Okay, so const text to PNG, and then I haven't looked at this code in a while. So here's main. Oh, and here's the print board of inputs. And I guess we want to do fs.write file. And I'm using the fs.promises, so rather than the callback, I'm using the promise function and I'm awaiting the results, so it's a little easier to write it asynchronously. I guess we can call the target out.png. Okay, let's see if that even works, just printing out hello as an image. Okay, there's my out. Open out PNG. All right, that looks like an image with hello. So this library seems to work. So now instead of printing hello, we want to print our solution string because this input here, yeah, input looks like it's an array or something, right? This is so long ago. Okay, how was I printing the... Oh, I think I had this whole board function because I had to go through in a really weird way. Oh yeah, I was like generating these rows and printing every single row. So let's just use the print board function to generate that string. So let result be our multi-line string. Okay, Finna says I can just use print board inputs as the image, but print board doesn't return anything. I need to put in a string. Print board just literally prints the board. So I think here, instead of making these rows and console logging them, I need to concatenate them into one big string. Okay. Oh, hi Alex. Seems like Cloud Vision AP supports JPEGs, PNG, GIFs, and PDFs. Okay, so PNG works well.
Yeah, mine was PNG. No problems.
Okay. Okay, so we have the string here, and I guess instead of, or in addition to printing the row, I want to say result equals result plus a new line plus the row. I don't want to be that verbose. Plus equals. Right, that puts the result left of the string. That should work. And just to be safe, let's finish it with a new line. Okay. Hi, Anarchy. Dane, what's your problem with let? It has a nice block scope. You don't need to worry about hoisting and function scope. Ooh, okay. Okay, let me get rid of this color blue because I can't really see that. Needs more const. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like const. I'm often too lazy for it. But I'm trying to use more const where it makes sense. Okay, that didn't work so well. I think we need to get a font that has monospacing. People
Looks
agree.
a little better, but like still.
Yeah, this is not the real letters. This is like, doesn't help how much
This
I
is like
squint my
abstract
eyes.
art letters.
Okay, so what I want to do is, let's hope this works. I'm assuming it's this. And how do we do different fonts? Option font. Oh, here. Oh no, it is background color. No, BG color works. And then for font, so let's use this. Anybody know sans serif? What does it look like? Anybody know a good monofont? Okay, so the colors work, it's still way off. Okay. Is there an equivalent of canvas in Node? I believe there is. Yeah, with Node canvas. So it's like a re-implementation of the browser canvas. Cairo-backed canvas implementation for node.js. And then it looks like that's what this package is using under the hood to create the screenshot. What's like the most common monospaced font I could use?
I'm trying to think of like what like my console is printing out my like Courier.
Oh yeah, here, examples of monospace include Courier.
Yeah, I think Courier should be good.
Okay. Oh, okay, it's the bot killing the links again. Sorry, and Robin. It's much easier to moderate the chat when you're not typing. So Kristen, I know if you see the chat, it's a little later, but if you see anything, feel free to jump in and answer and discuss it.
There we go, that looks good.
Okay, so we got an image, and now Vision API. Okay, so I'm assuming we will need the file name.
Yes.
Okay. So Kristen is a Java and Vision API expert. I am neither one of those, but
No, you're doing all the cool like automation stuff.
I can Google stuff.
I
can Google stuff, and so we have client libraries for a lot of the cool things on GCP. So we have for everything the API, and you can just directly talk to the REST endpoints, but that's a pain to do that. So we have these client libraries that hopefully make it really easy to do anything. And is anybody using our client libraries, the Node ones? if you have any issues or if you feel that some things are missing or you always have to use a terrible workaround, feel free to open an issue or even like ping me on Twitter and maybe we can improve it. Like that would be cool. Okay, so every time you use the client libraries in Node.js, you always have to do, or it gives you this quick start stuff because, yeah, before you can use GCP, usually, Kristen, you didn't show any of that.
The plugin, yeah, I didn't create an account or anything or a project.
But you have to create an account in the Google Cloud console, so you can just use your Google account or your Gmail account. Like I have a demo account that I use for a lot of work-related demos. But yeah, you create a demo, you use your Gmail account for the Cloud Console and you create a project and then you have to download credentials. So you have to follow a few steps here, but they're easy to do. Oh, and you have to enable billing. So if you use GCP more seriously, obviously it costs you money. We have a free tier that includes a ton of stuff, so you can do a ton of stuff for free. And also, if you first sign up, I think you currently get a $300 credit. If you do some open source work, we can even hook you up with more credits. I think there's another $500 credits we can give out. So that gets you really, really far if you're not running anything in production at scale. But yeah, so you have to set all that up, which obviously I did, and then set up authentication with a service account. So what that means is you log into the Cloud Console or you do it on the command line and you'll get a JSON file that has your credentials. Yep. And then these here have to pass to your credentials.
So just to point out the IntelliJ plugin, that's what I was mentioning with the JSON credentials. If you activate like the API in IntelliJ in the plugin, it will create a new JSON file for you. And set that up so you don't have to do it through the command line, just another option. That's how I like to set my projects up.
Okay. And I just realized I don't have any credentials, so this will probably not work and we'll have to like authenticate, but we can do that. So, okay, so what's the code saying? Okay, we need to install a package, big surprise for Node.js. Okay. Oh, what were you doing with Kubernetes, DigiKit? Okay, so I'm just copying and pasting the example because I do not want to type all that.
Yeah, in retrospect, I probably should have done the same thing.
You're like, I just know all this by head and type it out. I don't know it. So, okay, so we too create a client. We do give it a shorter name and we don't have to type the type of the client. So it's all a little bit shorter. But we get a client and I think these libraries, oh no, this one doesn't have good annotations. Okay, some of our libraries already have TypeScript annotations, so it's very easy to work with in IntelliJ. In code, yep, getting confused here. Okay, so we create this image annotator client, and then the example calls label detection on a file. Oh, and it's using then, we can use async await. Okay, but this is doing labels. We don't want to do labels. We want text detection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right here we only have the quick start. So let's look at the samples. So with the library, we usually have a quick start and then a few samples.
Franzi, if you want, there's also the documentation for text detection samples. If you wanted to Google that on the Cloud documentation, there's Node.js on there if you don't feel like digging through the repo.
So here's a text detection file. That probably has it, but sometimes those are hard to find. So you're saying GCP, Cloud Vision, like that? Yes.
Yeah.
Google knows what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Text detection sample. Yep, that's the first one.
Okay. All right. Anthony is saying they're using the Cloud and the free credits to keep WeChat running somewhere so I can do silly things like chat on a Twitch stream from my phone while watching on my TV. Can you always do that? Or do you mean that you have the TV stream in sync with the phone stream if you switch channels? My biggest, like I have a smart TV, and when I watch Twitch, the problem is that it's so hard to find streamers unless they're like the top 5 people. Anybody have a workaround for that?
Yeah, Node.js. That should get you going.
Yep.
Spoiler: the Java is like more or
even
less
shorter.
exactly what I did.
And it's also written with await, async await already, so I don't have to worry about that. Yep, and I'm already in an async function, so I don't have to worry about that. And I think I forgot to include that at the top. Yep. Yeah, so obviously we need to require the package that we npm installed. And then I copied this twice. Be gone. Okay, so we have a client. To-do developer, uncomment the following line. Well, I was thinking ahead. I already have my file name. Okay, and then, yes, we want to perform text detection on the local file. So we do text detection on that file name. And then the detections are from the result the text annotations. And then for every detection, we're logging out the text. Hi, Sophie, how's it going? Okay, and this number here is the number of iterations. That's the console log I, so we didn't get any text here. One thing that looks pretty bad. Oh, but if it would have, like, if this had thrown an error, it would have just bubbled to the top and we would have seen it. So I don't really need a catch here since it's such a short program. Okay, but that didn't work. Yeah, and it's probably because we have this kind of image, which didn't work for Kristen either. Kristen, do you want to tell me how to get to the drag and drop?
Sure. You can search for Cloud Vision drag and drop.
Okay, so this is a tool where you can just try out different images. Where is it? Code.
That's it. You just drop it in.
Background of code. Out PNG. I hope not. Oh no.
Oh.
Also, this is broken. How am I supposed to do this? What am I looking for? Street signs? Cars? Let's assume I'm looking for cars. Okay, failure. Oh no.
You're a robot.
No, I'm not a robot. See, it worked. It worked. I'm okay. So, yeah, very high quality. So where are my text annotations? I feel when I looked at this before.
I think there's a tab under there, but for some reason it's hidden. You see like the blue underline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Yeah, I think there's other tabs. Yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm on the text tab.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah, okay.
can't really figure
Okay,
it out.
so, gee, that's some, front-end design is hard. Like, especially when people change the size of their window and then front-end design goes like away. So is document the thing I want to look at?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, if it were able to read that text, it would have shown up with the letters.
Yeah, so it's thinking that this text is spelling out something that I cannot read at all, obviously. All right. Okay, so what were you printing?
Sorry?
What were you printing for your image? So spaces here.
Oh, spaces, yes. And then the Unicode rectangle. Oh, no, I already forgot. Unicode full block, if you search for that.
Do any of those look good?
No, search for Unicode full block. Or maybe it's on there. If it says full block, that's the right one. Or not the right one, but the one that I used.
Okay. How do I copy and paste that?
On the Unicode
This
website.
one maybe?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you just highlight that. It should... Yeah, okay. That should be good.
Ooh, and now I got tons of annotations.
Oh,
and I
thank you,
even think...
DigiKid. DigiKid put out the Unicode full block for us too.
Oh, thanks, DigiKid. Yeah,
Oh,
so
I got it. Yay.
this is our first joined GCP stream, Google Cloud Platform stream. So we ask a bunch of coworkers to support us. So that's why the room is like full of Googlers, and that's why we are allowed to mark Google engineering. Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, okay, cool.
Got it.
So
Yay.
this works. So this is a ton of stuff. I don't want to see all that. So apparently,
I don't see how this message gets you to the North Pole. Fair point. It's just messages in the sky, I think, near the North Pole.
maybe it's like all the messages from everybody who participated together and they spell out something, maybe?
Something like that.
Okay. So, but we don't want to see this whole thing. I need to run this here.
Then, haha, it thinks that the word is French. I guess in the locale, they put French. That's funny.
So we have a list of objects, and from those objects, we just want the dot description. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Sweet. Okay, so I have like one line of code where I'm printing the string to a JPEG, to a PNG. And then, I guess we don't even need this one here. Then we require the library, we instantiate a new client just by copying and pasting the boilerplate code. So we use vision.image_annotator client. And then we call different functions on this client. So the first example had a label detection, but we don't care about labels. We're doing a text detection. We say what file name. This, of course, is an asynchronous call because it's a call to the server, and we wait until something comes back. We could use callbacks, but we're using promises with async await, and we're already in this async main method, so that's no problem at all. And then, should I inline this? I want to inline this. No, I don't want to inline this. No, I leave it like this. And then we get like a list of results back, and I think it's a list because, yeah, like when it couldn't quite read it, it gave us like multiple blocks. And I guess ours just had this one block. How do I upload a new image?
Maybe just go back. It should refresh the page. Or maybe X. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so if it's very clear, in our case, it only had one block and it was done with it. So yeah, I think that's
better.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And
Nice.
For somebody who has to file a lot of expense reports, it can sometimes be really nice if you take a photo of your receipt and then OCR detects what's written on the receipt and fills out a bunch of stuff for you. So that's what OCR can be really useful for if you're scanning your own images and you can use OCR. It's easier to label them and sort them and find important stuff later. Ooh, are we wrong here? Good catch.
Wait, oh, I missed it.
So digicad, no.
F equals
Who's
the, oh, is it because maybe there's a border at the bottom, or is that, I can't tell if
Okay.
that's an added border or, Maybe it needs some spaces, like
Yeah,
padding.
so it looks like we have some problems here. And this F, which as a human I can clearly see as an F, is reported as an R. Yeah,
Doesn't mean,
really good catch. Thank you. All right, so how
yeah,
can we
good
fix that?
eye.
I do think it's because we like cut this off so closely. Is everything else correct though? P, L, B, P,
Yeah, I say we add
G.
padding and see what
Okay.
happens.
Yep. So here's the print function. I think we just add a few more. This is like coding at its best, right? But front end is so hard to decode. Okay, now it's an F. I can make this bigger so you can see it. Okay. Okay, yeah, that was good that we had this kind of test case. I wonder if we would need other letters that would maybe be wrong if we were to run this large scale. Okay. And Kristen was fearless. She was just running her whole code in one thing, but I'm like, I'm committing in between.
No, you're braver than I am.
Okay.
Yay.
All right, so earlier people were saying, well, we can kind of see this with our eyes. There's not a lot of point in using OCR now because we already have the solution to the puzzle. But I think what would be kind of cool if we ran this. So what Kristen and my code are doing is we run the main loop while the puzzle size keeps getting smaller. So we were assuming for the puzzle that if the stars are moving together and form letters, we were assuming they would all move together. There isn't one outlier that's maybe like going far away and only all the others make a star. So we can use this to break out of the while loop. And I'm logging my I here. It takes about 10,000 iteration until we get to the final result. So I'm wondering now, could we shoot 10,000 pictures, send them to the Vision API, and maybe somehow from those outputs figure out like, maybe just print the text for all these 10,000 ones and see if something good comes of it, something like that. Okay.
Can you at least batch the requests? Yeah, so I think in both of ours for the Cloud Vision stuff, we can send them in lists of requests. So we probably could do that. That would definitely take some stress off of instead of just constantly pinging one image at a time to Cloud Vision API.
Okay. Do we need to match them though? Because I'm kind of thinking of like sending them all at the same time. I don't know.
Could try both.
So I'm going to extract the code I wrote into a function. So this async function, I guess it gets the input string. And then, how do I get a random number? Let rand equals math.random. How many decimals does this have? Oh yeah, that is random enough, I would say. And so the string we want to give it is out.png. But in here we put the rand part. Let's just see if this works. Oh, I'm gonna say put those all in the out folder just in case. Okay, so putting those out there.
You're gonna have a lot of files.
Yeah. Well, for now I'm just doing it once, but in a new function.
Oh, I see. I think we're gonna increment like each each iteration with the new.
And I don't want to print I in here. Does this function need to return anything? So what I'm trying to do is get rid of all this inside the main loop. I don't think we want to print this, and just say test image. Okay, so the test image function, it creates this random string for the file name. It writes a PNG image, it creates a new vision client, and then does text detection and prints out all the labels. Oh, I want to return, I kind of think, because we saw that in this drag and drop here, if we had a good image, we only had one block. If we had a weird image, we had multiple blocks. So maybe we could have our code run until it returns just one block here. So return detections.length. Okay, so I'm still doing what I did before. I calculate the size, and only when they do keep getting bigger, then I print the final result. And I call this test image function. Okay, let Okay. Oh, that's a good question, Mindful Fox. Does Cloud Vision give you confidence level?
Yeah, I'm actually checking. I want to say, I was looking at this myself recently, and there is a method called get confidence, but it is deprecated. I need to check how or why it's deprecated, or what you should be using instead. So sit tight, I'll get you the answer for that. Oh, use score instead. So yeah, so if you call, I think it's get score, that gives you the confidence level.
Okay, so that sounds way more reasonable than me saying, oh, if it's one block, it's probably a good idea. Okay, so let's figure out later how to get this and just always return 0 for now. But I messed up no such file or directory. Yep,
also, just about score, it ranges from 0 to 1, and I think the closer you are to 1 is like a more confident guess.
We're very confident because we're on the last image. All right, anybody see where I messed up the file name? Oh, duh, of course. I don't want this to be an absolute path. Okay. Oh, anybody notice how we're printing the number now before we print the result? I think I didn't await. I'm not patient enough. Oh yeah, and that's why it's printing out promise pending, because I'm printing the score, but I didn't await the promise. So the score is not the number, but the pending promise. Okay. Okay, so this function works.
You got a score of 1.
Well, because I hard-coded the score.
That's the actual result. I'm like, wait a sec.
Okay, Dane, where did you see the score here?
I think it was in the first tab, labels. I think, oh no, sorry, those are actually the image labels. That's saying, it's like, I'm pretty sure this is a font or a text or line. Go to logos, maybe? Yeah, no, that's different.
Okay. But we can go back to these docs and see if they have anything else to say.
Yeah. It is cool to play around with the drag and drop. I don't do it enough. It's cool. It gives you like a nice UI representation of all that stuff.
Oh, okay, and this is if these images wouldn't be all on my local machine, but somewhere in a bucket, but it doesn't say a lot about... Maybe this one has more information. Anybody else has used the score before and knows how to get it?
In Java, it's just get score on the response or the annotation. So I think where you're
Okay.
doing description, you could just switch that to score, and that I would assume work. I don't know this language as well, but I think it's the same.
Oh, and I guess I need to do that for all the detections again.
Yeah, so if you just switch text.description to text.score, I think that should work. But that's my best guess translating Java to JavaScript.
No, I don't know where the score is coming from, if that's really coming from the file we're importing. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, the score is 0 in both times, which is a little bit sad.
Oh. I'm going to try it on mine.
Oh, and Finney says there was a JSON tab. Is that helpful? See, this one has, oh, but that's for the logo annotations. There's a bunch of scores here. Logo annotation. Okay, so this one has a confidence. Okay, well, while everybody else is Googling how to get the score, oh, Chris is saying it's called confidence. Okay. Where did you find that, Chris? What API method are we using? We were making an image annotator client, and then we call text detection. So this one here, classes, image annotator client. I don't know which version we're using. Let's do version 1. And then I'm gonna move these windows around, sorry, this is weird. So this one here has a, oh yeah, there's a batch function, but we were doing text detection.
Yeah, I would have expected score to work, but I may have to dig into this.
Yeah, where's my description of the return value? Okay, but let's see if that worked. Nope, 0 confidence, unless I mistyped it. Annotation pages confidence. Yeah, let's just print the whole thing again and see where it is. Let's print the whole thing. So you're saying text annotation, and then, yeah, let's see if we just print detections. Oh, can you actually see the left side of my screen? Yeah, you can see that, never mind.
I see your code in your console.
Okay.
Oh, something was a 1 or no?
Well, it does have a confidence, but why is it such low confidence? Looks like a perfect image to me.
And it got it right.
I mean, the result has a score and a confidence. And it's assuming it's French, or it's assuming it doesn't understand it.
Interesting. We'll have to play around with that and see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can open a bug for this ourselves.
Exactly. Get some answers.
I'm not sure, Chris, which API method this is calling. GitHub, node.js, GCP, Vision, API. So if we go into the sources, oh, there's also different versions. Maybe I'm using the wrong version. And we have a image annotator client, text. So here's the text detection. Yeah, okay, this is a little too hard to see right now whether they forgot to include the score or not. All right. Okay, but anyways, we can read this image. So maybe we will use just a number of detections instead of the score.
Maybe that's why it has no confidence, because it's not a word. That's true. Maybe that's why Leargard said that in the chat. That's a good point. It's not, doesn't know what kind of word it is, because it's just some random letters.
That makes sense, yeah. Yeah, because I guess usually it fills in the English words or whatever locale you give it, and it can't do that for us. Okay. So we could do something like detection length. If it's equal to 1, then we want to return a score of 1, and otherwise we return a score of 0. So for our example, why is the score still 0? I thought the length was 1. Okay, let's just return this. It's not, oh yeah, we still want the text. Oh, it has length 2. Oh yeah, because it thinks it has these 2 different locales. Well, let's just... That is weird though, because when we uploaded in the drag and drop, didn't that only have 1?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, but this was also the wrong one. This was the E instead of the F.
Yeah.
Okay, now this always says it's just 1 block. I don't understand. Okay. Should we try to run this on all 10,000 iterations?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Any objections?
Let's do it.
All right, let count equal 0 while count less than 20,000, count plus plus. Oh no, 20,000 would be bad. I think we kind of need to use pretty much this number here so that we can see like the last 5 results or something. And then once we see that, think about how we could change it to automatically find that sweet spot. Okay, so we don't want to do this at the end. I want to do it, so when do we want to do this? For every input, right? So here where was at some point debug printing all these inputs, this is where we are now printing this into the string, and then we're sending this image.
Franzi Mindful Fox 11 wants to know, will you get billed for this? So I think you had walked through the billing and stuff like that earlier. Is that right?
I have not, but that's a very good
Okay.
question, and that
We can
actually
show you after.
tells me I should start with like 5 and not with that big number. Let's just see whether this runs for like 5 of them, and while this doesn't run, the surface type is not appropriate for the operation. This sounds really weird. Okay. Oh, at text PNG, the surface type, what does that mean? Oh, is it maybe too big? So the test image function here, it's writing a file. Maybe I need to give it like a file size.
Maybe. Yeah, this is where I'm not an expert on this part.
Okay, what are some options here? I have a font. Anybody have experience with Node Canvas and giving it different sizes? Okay, grid starts at -20 to +20, if I remember correctly. It's huge. I guess that is like kind of our problem. And I don't see a size here. So I think one thing to get around this is we could do we can just try this, and if it throws, was it just a regular throw? Yeah, try catch. Let's just ignore it. In which case it won't print anything. So if it didn't work, then we don't want to send the image to the Vision API. Oh, I guess we're not ignoring the error. We're like skipping this frame. Okay. Oh, and this is running 5 times now, at most. This is stuck. I don't know, what is it doing?
Might be stuck.
This looks really stuck because I'm only running this for like 5 images and it stopped after the second one. Okay. Oh, and somebody's also suggesting to use a smaller font.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good point. Should we just use one that's half as big or even smaller? About 10 pixels.
Worth a try.
Okay. This seems really slow. Was it this slow when I was just running one image? Oh, but now those are really big images, so that's maybe why. Okay.
When this is done, I'm just curious. I'd like to see like what the most recent image is, just to see what it
Yeah.
what it does.
Okay. I like how when you search for the GCP Vision API, you get an ad from AWS. Okay.
Oh, that's the chart. Underneath that, that'll lay out all the Vision API call things and stuff like that.
Yeah, so usually the cost, so that's a very bottom. Okay, Kristen, you want to talk about this?
Sure. That's like the very, very, very bottom. Okay, cool. So in our case, we're doing text detection, but as you can see, these are all broken up by whatever types of detections that you're using, like label detection, facial detection, logo detection, things like that. So if you use 1 to 1,000 units a month, you'll see that it's free. Everything after that is $1.50 per 1,000 units. So yeah, you guys are welcome to look at this chart and just kind of see The breakdown, if you're interested in text detection, maybe label detection, something different. So this is kind of the guide in which to go by.
Okay, so if we're only sending the final image, we will never get to 1,000, so it's totally free. But if
Unless we just really love running this program.
but if we do run 20,000 images, then we would be out $30 per run. Is that right?
Math in head. I don't know. Seems right. I trust your math.
Yeah, because if we run it for 10,000 images, it would be $15. Okay, so that's good to know. Okay. So the last image that we generated by date is this one here, 1708.